Hey folks, Champesk here bringing another audio commentary. Today I'm going to be doing a game from the last Zotac between Remind and I believe it's Bouche X from Clan X. And I'm not overly familiar with this Bouche, but I certainly am aware of Clan X, and they're certainly a reputable clan, so I assume that he's at least a decent player. And Remind, obviously, sort of probably top three, or sort of definitely top three elves in the world. I'd say probably second best behind Moon, but probably ahead of Soccer. Obviously, lots of sort of opinions there. Obviously, probably Psy is probably better against Human and stuff, but who's really to say at this point? And meanwhile, Bouche going for a standard ghoul build. This is pretty standard against Elf, and the reason I'm doing this game actually is because people have been asking for a couple of, or like have been always asking really for undead games, and there's really not that many undead players, and obviously there's not really much point in doing a game where it's just sort of an undead getting slaughtered by a orc or something. So hopefully this is going to be a bit of an interesting game. The general consensus is that sort of undead has a slight advantage against elf, but certainly this is sort of Remind versus Bouche, so I imagine that overall sort of the imbalance is going to be counteracted by Remind sort of tremendous play, and generally we see Remind playing off just one mine. Actually, we don't see him expand as much as other players. Obviously versus undead it's pretty hard to expand anyways, but okay, so we're pretty much into the game now. Remind has gone for a Warden first, which is actually a pretty standard hero now against undead. Obviously Demon Hunter is quite nice because you can drain all that mana, but then when they get tier 2 they get their statues out. They have 3 heroes. You know, your mana burn just isn't really doing as much as you'd like because there's just so many things to mana burn. They're just regenerating their mana so quickly, so we do often now see a Warden first, and Warden can just do so much damage to a Death Knight early game as well. And Death Knight is now chasing down this one Wisp. Presumably he's not going to quell it because Remind would just be able to detonate it, and so he's just going to try and kill it manually and then maybe run away. But as you can see, just when Bouche gets close to it, Remind detonates it anyways. And Remind putting up a second Ancient of War here, probably not going to go for 2 Ancient of War hunts, but just wants to creep as quickly as possible, and he'll be able to creep this camp quite quickly. Obviously it's exactly the same as the one on Terra Standa, the new Plunder Isle and stuff, but meanwhile Remind, while that Ancient of War is building, Remind's actually got a bit fortunate and found something good to do with his time. I think he's probably going to go shopping anyways, but he's found the Death Knight, and he's been able to get one Shadow Strike off on it. And he'll just continue to chase this down, probably with no intention of actually killing it, but obviously if you can put a lot of damage onto it, it really affects the ability to sort of interrupt their creeping, and so that's exactly what Remind's doing at this point. And the second Age of War has now completed, and will be walked in, and I imagine they've both started their techs already. Oh no, Remind's just starting his tech now actually, and Bouche actually was a significantly faster tech, obviously since he's just set all his ghouls to harvest lumber. Actually, Bouche going for Unholy Aura first, so we could see some aggressive play perhaps with ghouls as soon as he feels he's harvested enough lumber for the for his tier 2 buildings and his second hero. He might well come out and bring out all his ghouls and try and use his speed advantage to maybe get a couple surrounds off on the Warden, who might well who actually has bottled boots of speed as well, but might well also have blink by this point. Actually he will, because he's about to finish. He's about to get level 2 here, unless Bouche can do some amazing creep jack. But no, Remind does get level 2, and this is going to mean that the surrounds are going to be harder, and Bouche taking a lot more damage as well on his Death Knight. Actually, it will need to be careful here. Is forced to run his Death Knight away, and doesn't manage to get any block of the ghouls. And another Shadow Strike coming off here from Remind. Remind doesn't have enough mana for another one quite yet, but but Bouche is running into his base, and so hopefully this will at least keep him safe for a while. And he is building in Rubian Tower. Obviously it's a bit late, and Bouche actually getting a bit trapped in his base. And looks like he might. Yes, he does lose his Death Knight just as his tier 2 finishes as well. So that's going to be really annoying for him, because he's going to be wanting to build a Lich presumably at this point as well, and he's not going to be able to for 30 seconds or so. And Bouche deciding that there's not really much his ghouls can do without his Death Knight, especially without that Unholy Aura, and so he's just coming straight back in to just harvest a bit more lumber, maybe so that he can harass a bit more later on, and immediately putting up an early sacrificial pit and taking to tier 3 and putting up a slaughterhouse as well. Yeah, slaughterhouse as well. Really, those are pretty much the only 2 buildings that you really commonly see at tier 2. Meanwhile, I think Remind will probably hit tier 2. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, no, he teched a bit late, didn't he? Yeah, he was teching a bit later, so Remind is sort of a bit behind. Actually, his Hunter's All might be even slightly late after that as well, and actually his 4th Moonwall is quite late as well. So I think Remind not playing his best at this point, but certainly he's managed to get a Death Knight kill. He's almost level 3. Things are going pretty well for him at this point, and the Death Knight is now back, and the Lich is being built, and still only 40 experience on the Death Knight though, so he's really going to need to pick up his game and maybe try and get a couple archer kills before any sort of tier 2 units can come out, and obviously a second hero is probably going to be coming out for Remind any second now. And with the Warden, you generally have two choices. You can generally either go Naga or Panda, and it's very situational. But I think Remind will probably want to scout, and he is actually bringing in one Wisp here, which he's probably using to scout just to see what's going on here. And meanwhile, Remind now chasing down the Death Knight again, but looks like Bouche might actually get a block this time, and Bouche does manage to get to the shop, but buys the Staff of Teleportation, so he will be able to get out of there fairly sharpish. Obviously, even with the aura, it's no match for the boot, and Nog has been picked up second now for Remind, and actually, tier 3, getting pretty close to done. Lich is now out as well, but quite interestingly, a Temple of the Damned here out for Bouche, and so I think what we're probably going to see here is I think there's other two things you can see. You can see either sort of master banshees and using possession on bears, stuff like that, which is always fun, or you could see Necrowagon, which you really don't see very often at all. And if we take a look now, he is actually researching Necromancer Adept training, so it looks like we will probably be seeing Necrowagon, which is a very interesting strategy to be going for. I'm not sure if Remine's actually scouted this yet, but when he does, he is going to want to completely change up his tactics. I assume he's just taking to tier 3. Yeah, he is. He's going to definitely want to put down an Ancient of Wind just so that he can get a couple Fairy Dragons, because obviously they just destroy undead casters, and also it's pretty good against things like Lich, and if he gets sort of a Naga or Dark Ranger or something third, it's also going to be very good against that. And so really well worth getting. And meanwhile, Naga is almost level 2 now as well, and I'm not sure where the Warden's been tanking a bit and has actually picked up a Wand of Illusion. That's a pretty nice item, especially against something like Undead, where you want to get off your first nuke sort of as soon as the battle starts, and if you need to sort of spend a couple seconds working out which hero is the real hero, then that's sort of some time really wasted. And tier 3 Necromancer training coming up now, so he's going to be able to cripple on top of everything else, which is a pretty fun skill. And also I'm not sure if we're going to see it much, because obviously Dryads will be coming out for Remind, but also Frenzy as well. Sorry, what's it called? Is also a very nice skill. If you can put it on something like the Lich when it has its orb, which the Lich does now have, it can just massively increase its damage output. And then when you have a statue and Unholy Aura and stuff as well, it really doesn't, sort of this tiny amount of damage done to you really doesn't make too much of a difference. But Bouche continuing to creep here. Sorry, I forgot his name briefly. And Remind me while creeping a lot sort of harder things. He actually Ancient of War creeped there and actually lost his Ancient of War by the looks of things. But but it's not too important at this point. Obviously, Ancient of War not critical for him. But has got some very nice items. Got a Wand of the Wind and Wand of Illusion. So some very nice disposable items. And we'll have to see if he's going to use them immediately in an early battle, or if he's going to try and save them for perhaps a later, more critical battle, where they'll be less effective. And Remind now coming out and stealing actually trying to steal these creeps from Bouche's side as well. So this could be very nice creeping for him if he manages to do it. Obviously tanking on his Warden as much as he can. These poison creeps will just sort of attack all your units. Remind actually taking a lot of damage on an archer, down to 1 hit point, obviously just from the poison. And those poison creeps really just do so much damage and are really so annoying. But obviously tanking on his Warden, picks up a Mana Stone, such nice items for Remind at this point. And yeah, we do have a Unholy Frenzy here on the Lich, which is just so nice, and obviously just gives so much focusing power with level 2 Death Knight and level 2 Lich as well. So Bouche sort of slowly working his levels up, but not nearly as quickly as Remind does. And I think yeah, we have a exhumed corpses being researched as well. Obviously not a research you see very often, and a boneyard actually going up in the back as well. So it's a really interesting build here, because obviously when you generally see Necromancer, you don't generally get frost worms in it, but we'll have to see how that works out for him, because obviously it's pretty tricky to just have the economy to go for both a very intensive necro push, which is what you generally need, on top as well as fiend, or as well as crypt fiend, or sorry, not crypt fiends, but frost worms, which are just so expensive, both in terms of food and in terms of just economy. And it looks like the Death Knight was using Staff to TP back, but then realised that Naga there was a fake, and so decides to cancel it. And meanwhile, one meat wagon out now, and only 2 necromancers out for Bouche. But I think Remind doesn't have much of an army either. Obviously, he's been teching all the way to tier 3, and so he doesn't actually have too many units, although he does have 2 master bears and 2 dryads at this point. And this one Warden managing to get into the back of the base, and actually he's teched a Fan of Knives rather than Blink, which is a bit surprising. I guess he's just he wants to get all this economy harass in, and he did manage to kill one acolyte pretty much instantly, and was trying to chase down the second one, but some nice use of ghouls here to block off the wardens, really stopping him from doing that. And it looks like he might actually manage to get around this way, and does actually just go for a Shadow Strike to get the kill. And meanwhile, one bear just running in just to get the rejuve off and then running out, so that's a pretty nice play here from Reminds. But meanwhile, Bouche is deciding instead of trying to get rid of that one warden, he's just going to go for a counter attack, and this could actually be pretty effective. Remind deciding that he does need his warden in this battle, which he definitely does, and he probably should try and make good use of his Wand of the Wind at this point. Remind putting up a Chimera Roost actually in the back as well. He does have a Ancient Wind up, has actually been going for hippos rather than fairy dragons, which I'm a bit surprised about. But you can just see this is sort of the this is a really good time for Bouche to attack. He has a lot of units, and Remind does need to bring in a lot of whispers to detonate these probably. Bouche also has a shade in the back, so he knows exactly what's going on. And this warden does get focused down, coiled over, and gets killed. And that gives level 3 to the Death Knight. So this will actually be a bit of a nice comeback here for Bouche if he manages